This is the DJI Osmo Mobile 7 and 7P. These are smartphone gimbals to be able to get you better looking footage when you're out filming, but also there's just a ton of features packed into both of these gimbals. So in this video, what I want to show you is what you can actually do with a smartphone gimbal and also all of the different things that you get with the 7 and the 7P. So if you're ready, let's get into it.
And I just want to say a special thanks to DJI for sponsoring this video.
So one of the biggest things with a smartphone gimbal is that phones themselves have really good stabilization. So if you have a new iPhone or one of the other smartphones on the market, that already has good stabilization built in. And because of that, a lot of people say, well, why do you need a gimbal with your smartphone if you already have good stabilization? And I think the big reason is that, well, a gimbal unlocks a lot of additional tools to be able to create some awesome looking footage. But before we dig into all of that, let's just do a side-by-side comparison of hand holding my phone, getting some shots around here in the Joshua trees, and then comparing it side by side with what you could get from the gimbal so you could see what the difference is just by shooting handheld versus one of these. All right, interesting. So just out of the phone, the footage does look really good. However, there's this like extra layer of stabilization when you're using the Osmo Mobile 7. And that's because you can do things like keep your horizon completely level and be able to control the camera much better. And a big part of that is, well, you have a handle. Be able to hold a handle with one hand or two allows you to be a lot more stable with your shots and be a little bit more intentional with your movements. Now with a phone, when you're shooting horizontal, oftentimes you're shooting like this, and it's just a lot harder to hold a phone like this than it is to hold a gimbal like this. Having the ability to have a handle grip, and with this one, you can actually extend it out further, so you can have two hands on the grip. It just allows you to make some better stable shots. So that's one major reason, just in terms of stabilization, why you could get better looking footage out of the Osmo Mobile 7. Now let's talk about the design. So if you've worked with some of the other DJI Osmo Mobile gimbals, it's gonna be very similar, but there are some different changes. So the whole thing packs down small, so you can slip this in your pocket if you just wanna carry it around, or your purse or bag, wherever it is. So there's not a lot that you need beyond just the gimbal. The only other piece that you need, at least with the 7, is the clip that goes on your phone. And this just will clip around the phone. It snaps on, it's magnetic. And then when you fold out the gimbal, it automatically turns on. Now, one really cool thing about the Osmo Mobile 7 is that it's got an integrated tripod. So in the bottom, you can pop this out, and now you can set this camera down and use it as a tripod. And it just makes working with the gimbal so much easier. And this just folds up in the bottom of the handle. Now on the gimbal itself, you have access to all the buttons you need to operate the gimbal and also your camera. So you got a joystick, which is gonna allow you to pan around the camera and be able to move the camera in different ways. You have a mode button, you have your record button, you have this little button with the two arrows on it, which switches the camera around. And each one of these buttons you click once or twice or three times and it does different functions. On the back, you have a trigger, which allows you to control the gimbal in some different ways and opens up tracking. So you just click once and it's gonna start tracking. And then on the side, you have a zoom control. Now with the 7P, the side is a jog wheel. So this allows you to switch between zooming and focus. You can manually focus here on the side, or you could zoom in and out. Now, both these gimbals have a USB-C and you could charge your phone off of the gimbal, which is a great feature. But the big difference with the 7P is you have this multifunctional module that you could add on to the phone clip. Now, this is pretty cool because this opens up some different features with this gimbal and adds some additional tools for you to use when you're out filming. So on it is an integrated light, and it has 4 different light modes, and it also has different color temperatures. All right, let's do a little test of this light. So I'm gonna come in this dark room, super dark. Let's turn on this little light. All right, so this is the lowest setting, and it's on tungsten right now. I can change it to different color temperatures. Let's go back to tungsten. All right, this is the second brightness. This is the third, and the most bright. So you can see it's a pretty bright little light. So if you are in a darker setting and you have this little light to be able to film, well, it's integrated right into the gimbal. It's pretty cool. Now also you're gonna see that there's a tracking camera on this multifunctional module. Now this allows you to use your tracking even if you're not using the DJI Mimo app. Okay, so now I've flipped over to just my normal camera on the iPhone, and I have it in ProRes log. So I could shoot with any app on the phone, but I still get tracking because I have the multifunctional module on. So I just click once on the trigger and then it starts tracking, and there's a little green light that tells me that it's tracking me. So I can walk around and I'm in log, so I could go through and color grade this later. And I'm just color grading this with my set of adventure LUTs that I make for log footage. And I'm able to get some better looking footage because I'm able to take full control and get more dynamic range and really be able to dial in the color grade to what I want versus the colors that you naturally get out of the phone and just the standard color profile. But I'm tracking. I can't see myself because the screen's turned away from me. But having this little green light tells me that the DJI Osmo Mobile 7P is tracking me. Pretty cool. Now also this could connect directly to 2 different wireless microphones. So you could have your DJI Mic Mini connected to this module and have wireless audio. Let me show you how easy it is to set up the DJI Mic Mini with the Osmo Mobile 7P. So I have my phone on the phone mount, flip it out, turn it on. We are good to go. So what I'll do is power on the Mic Mini and put it into pairing mode. So it's pairing, and then I push the little button on the side of the multifunctional module, hold it for pairing, and it will automatically sync up. And once you have these linked, you can just plug in the cable that comes with the multifunctional module. It will connect to the phone, and now the wireless microphone is going to be connected directly to your phone. And you can see here I'm in the settings for my multifunctional module. You can see there's the follow speed, but here, wireless mic. It has all of your settings for your wireless microphone. You have your noise cancellation, you have your audio channel, your safety track, you have gain, low cut, clipping control. Basically, all the features on the DJI Mic Mini are available when you link it to your multifunctional module. So let's put this on my shirt. It's gonna track me, I'm gonna walk over here. And now this is an audio test with the DJI Mic Mini. You can hear it, it's right here on the center of my chest, and I can move around, I could walk around, and you could hear me well because it's a wireless microphone, and I don't have to be right next to the phone. And then also, you could charge your camera off this module. So when you have your gimbal connected, you plug in a little USB-C into the module, double click the mode button, and it's gonna start charging your phone. Pretty awesome because you don't really have to carry that much additional besides the gimbal, the little module, the cable, and that's it. And you have basically a ton of additional features to be able to use this camera and get some stable shots and some other styles of shots. Now, one other thing with the Osmo Mobile 7P is that it's got a built-in extension rod, which gets the camera a little bit further away so you get some better selfie style shots, but also you could set this on the ground using the tripod, and the camera has a little bit of height to it. You could see from this shot here when I was walking by, I was actually able to get a pretty decent shot using the extension rod and the tripod. But let's take this out into the desert, go find something interesting to shoot, and let me show you the different modes and how you actually use this to get some good looking footage. All right, so kind of just been doing some off-roading out here, and I want to get some shots of the Jeep parked next to this Joshua tree. So there's some different modes that you have access to on the gimbal itself. This is the shot here. And on the M, you can click through the different modes. So you have pan follow, you have FPV, spin shot, and you have pan tilt follow. So essentially,
with pan tilt follow, the camera is gonna follow. So you go down, the camera's gonna follow you down. You go up, the camera's gonna follow you up. Same with left and right. Now in pan follow mode, if you go up and down, the camera stays completely level, but it'll still turn left and right. In FPV mode, all the axes are unlocked. So you can go down, up by tilting, you can pan left and right, and then you can also roll the camera so you get this kind of axis shifting. And then you have spin shot, which you could use the joystick and the camera's gonna spin in a circle. So you create this cool like spinny effect. I haven't used it very often, but it's there if that's something that you wanna do. It's really hard to do if you don't have a gimbal. So let's do a couple of these moves here with my Jeep. Let's put it into pan tilt follow. And I'm gonna start down on the ground, and then I'm gonna come up and reveal the Jeep. So with the pan tilt follow, you can create these dynamic shots where you're kind of moving and the camera's gonna follow you everywhere that you go, but it keeps that horizon completely level. Now I'm gonna switch over to pan follow, and this is a mode that I like to use all the time. And I'm just gonna create an arc around my Jeep, showing the landscape in the distance. Now, if you wanna do the FPV, creates a little bit more dynamics with the shot. So I might start up high and kind of roll down into the scene, revealing the Jeep and where it's at, and then I can move around it with this arcing motion. So these 4 modes are on the M button. However, at any point in any of these modes, you can hold the trigger button, which has a few functions. Double press it, it recenters the gimbal back to center. Press it 3 times, it's gonna rotate around, so I can do this whole selfie mode. Press 3 again, it goes back, and if you press and hold, it creates a lock mode. So no matter what you do with the gimbal, the camera's gonna stay completely stable. And you tap once on the gimbal, and it starts your tracking. So let's press and hold, use the lock mode. I wanna lock in this direction, and we're just gonna walk down the Jeep. Now let's talk about tracking. So I have this Joshua tree over here. We're gonna track it. There's a few ways you could set this up. One, you can draw a box around what it is that you wanna track. And then as you move, it'll keep that thing or that person centered. Now what's pretty cool is you could use the joystick and put the object that you're tracking in any part of your frame. So if I want to pull this Joshua tree over to the left-hand side of my frame, now I just used the joystick, pulled it over to the left, and now it's going to track on the left-hand side. So you could use the tracking and be able to get a better shot of what you're filming and compose it a little bit better. Now, another way to do the tracking is just press once on the trigger. And it's gonna grab what the camera thinks you wanna track in the middle of the frame, and then it's gonna track it. Now, if I flip this around, so I tap 3 times on the trigger, and then tap once, well, now it's gonna start tracking me. So wherever I go, it's gonna be tracking. And this is how you could use the nicer lenses on your camera to be able to track you. So let's record. All right, so now I am tracking, I'm recording, and I'm walking through the desert. And you can see that I'm able to use this camera, a good shot for a walk and talk, doing this vlog style. And there's actually a little recording light on the gimbal itself, so I can see that I'm recording and know that I'm getting the shot that I need.
Let me show you how this gesture control works. So I'm in the native iPhone app. I'm not actually using the DJI Mimo app. And basically to start tracking, I just put my hand up like this. And now wherever I move, the camera's gonna follow because it's tracking using the multifunctional module, not the DJI Mimo app. And if I do the peace sign, you'll see the light change, it'll flash yellow. And now the camera's gonna be recording on the regular iPhone app. And now in any camera app, I can move around and it's gonna be tracking and recording me. So it's a super useful feature that allows you to use basically any app, and you can still have these tracking capabilities when you're out filming. Now, one thing we need to talk about is battery life. So on this gimbal, you're getting 10 hours of battery life in just normal gimbal operation. So how I'm using it here. We've been walking around, we've been doing some different gimbal shots, this and that. It's gonna last 10 hours.
Now, if you're using the multifunctional module, it's gonna drop the time down. So if you have a 7P versus just the 7, which I'm filming on right now, it goes to 4.5 hours. So it does take more battery to run that multifunctional module, but it does open up this gimbal to give you a lot of different tools to work with. So a lot of cool features, easily accessible. Let's go to another spot and create a little sequence using this gimbal and just really see what we could do with it and just getting some B-roll shots exploring. Let's go. All right, so I switched to the Osmo Mobile 7 and I'm at what's called Christ Park. There's a whole group of statues out here near Joshua Tree, big desert statues. So let's do some tracking here with these statues. Let me show you how this works. So I'm gonna flip the camera around. We have this shot here. I can either press once on the trigger or I can grab the subject and then I'm just gonna walk. And you can see that it's automatically tracked. Here's some different statues here. Let's get a couple shots. Let's do one kind of walking in, and I'm gonna use the lock feature. So I'm gonna hold the trigger, and I'm just gonna walk forward. So I'm gonna have this super stable shot, and no matter what I do with the gimbal, it's always gonna be facing in the same direction. Now I wanna do a shot where I'm kind of walking around here. So I could switch the mode by switching the mode button on the gimbal itself, or I can click these 3 dots, and we could go to the different modes. So let's go to PF, which is pan follow. And let's do an arc around these statues. So now I want to do a low angle shot. So I'm going to flip the gimbal upside down and get a low angle shot here. And then I'll just do a pan shot from left to right. So let's go to a 1x. I'm just going to stand in one spot and I'm just going to pan. And then what I'll do is I'll pick out one of these statues, use my long lens, my 3x, turn on my tracking, and you can see there's a lot of depth in this shot. And I'll start on one side and I'll work my way over to the other side. All right, let me grab another shot of me wandering around here. Let's put it on the tripod and I'm gonna stick up a little bit so we can get a little bit taller shot. All right, so we got a few different shots from this area. Let's cut it together and do a quick little sequence with all the shots using the gimbal. All right, so we just got to our next spot, this like junkyard art museum. However, it's like crazy windy out here. So what I wanna do is I wanna use the front facing camera and I wanna play around with some POVs. So I'm gonna film myself going through and I'm gonna use the POV gimbal move to kind of give this sense of like exploring a space. And it's a little bit different than what we just shot at the Christ Park because that was more like cinematic shots. So like dollies and like push-ins. This is gonna be a lot more free and I'm gonna use the tracking on my face while also doing just some POV style shots facing forward with that wide lens. All right, pretty cool what you can get with this gimbal. It opens up a ton of flexibility to use your phone and just give you some more opportunities to get some good looking footage. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, well, can you use it with a case on your phone? And so I have a Peak Design case on my phone right now. And yeah, if you have a smaller case, it will work with the case on. Now, a couple other features I want to show you. You can obviously shoot vertical or horizontal. I've been shooting everything horizontal because this is for YouTube. But if you're someone who is a vertical content shooter, well, you can use this gimbal vertically the entire time. And everything that I've been showing you in this video also works when you're shooting in vertical mode. So let me show you some of the other modes you have access to. So there's this like custom story mode, which will give you like a series of shots, and it will walk you through that series of shots and give you a little video tutorial. So this is for if you want to create a sequence like the couple sequences we just made, but you want everything kind of spoon-fed to you. So you could just use the tutorial as a guide to be able to create a cool little sequence. Now, there's also this parents and kids mode. And so if you're hanging out with your kids, the two of you are playing, you could put this on and it's gonna follow you and track you whatever you're doing and then cut it all together and create a little sequence. Kind of fun. You have a panoramic mode, so you could create photos that stitch multiple photos together. You have photo, you have video, you have slow motion, you have a dynazoom, which is basically a dolly zoom. So when you move forward, it's gonna widen out the lens and it creates the Hitchcock's kind of effect. So you could do a move in, or you could do a move out. You could do a time lapse. So I'm in the tripod mode. I could point it up at these clouds, and then I could run a time lapse of the clouds coming by. Now, there's also this hyperlapse mode. So it's the same thing as a time lapse. However, it's a moving time lapse. So let's go walk through these Joshua trees and let's do a quick hyperlapse. And this is what it looks like. Now, also with your DJI Mimo app, you have access to all of your settings. So you could change all your camera settings. You could take manual control. You could change your resolution, your frame rates. You could do a beauty filter. So if you want to smoothen your skin and make you look pretty when you're on camera. And then you just have a bunch of settings that's going to help with tracking and how the gimbal works. Now, overall, the DJI Osmo Mobile 7 is much more than just stable footage. You obviously can get stable footage with this tool. However, it gives you a lot of different flexibility to use your phone as your main camera and just opens up the way that you can use your phone. And so if you're someone who does want to primarily use your phone, you don't want to carry other gear with you, this is a great tool for you to use. And it doesn't add a whole lot of extra gear that you have to take with you, but it does open up a lot of flexibility to be able to use it in a ton of different ways. So if you want to know more information about the DJI Osmo Mobile 7 or the 7P, I'll put links to them down below in the description for you to check out. And if you're someone who's going to be using this to make outdoor adventure style videos, then I highly suggest you check out this playlist right here, which is going to go through a ton of tips on how you can make better videos when you're out exploring. So I'll see you over there.